everybody, welcome back to the channel today. My name is Carly.
And I'm Kim.
And today we're back for another Buzz Chat episode.
Woo!
It's been so long since we've done a Buzz Chat episode. It's been way too long. First off, Beckham is like in rare form. You are going so crazy.
But it's not going to be so rare now that he's almost won.
I know. He's in the phase now. But what we wanted to kind of chat a little bit about today was actually kind of based on a reel that I did. It was basically chatting about three games, three upcoming titles that I'm excited about. And all of the games happen to be like duo titles of an original title that's out. So like the two-player version of Aquatica, two-player version of Azul, and then two-player version of, what was the other one? Oh, the Mad Kala. Yeah, two-player version of Wonderland's War. Kim came over today and she's like, you know what? Like, let's do a quick Buzz Chat and let's chat about this. Like, so your question to me,
yes,
if you want to
pose it I was asking
to the viewers.
Carly, because I was wondering, does this kind of seem like it's just like everyone else is doing it, so we should do it, like, kind of thing? Because there's just so many two-player versions coming out of games that have already been like published and produced, and they're like, oh, let's make a two-player version. Does it feel like they're just doing that because it's the trend right now, or because it's actually needed, or it's necessary?
So I don't really know if I don't know if my thoughts are correct, but these are just like my personal, just from like what I'm seeing in the end, my opinions
that's why it's a
based on what I'm seeing in the industry. But we always know there's always phases that board games are going through. You know, people were saying not too long ago, it's a trick-taking renaissance. Like there's so many trick-taking games coming out. Well, I do feel this way now about duo modes or two-player modes or something. I mean, even just recently. So okay, let's think. So Everdell.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, didn't Everdell just come out?
Yeah, so Everdell, and then obviously the ones in the reel that I talked about, the Aquatica, Azul, King of Tokyo. There's the King of Tokyo. I think we're just going to continue to see more, especially like those
Splendor.
big, Splendor. The interesting thing for me is when these games are released or talked about, when I personally feel like the gameplay is fine it too. You know, like Everdell. I think Everdell, I mean, other than maybe a little bit more competition, but for the most part, I feel like Everdell plays fine with two.
And I felt like Aquatica plays fine at two players.
Like I love Aquatica at two. And so I don't know, it feels a little cash grabby. But at the same time, like technically everything is a cash grab. I mean, everything.
Yeah, everyone wants to make money.
Publishers just want you to make money. Every single game out there, it's meant to grab your attention. It's meant to get you to want to spend money. That's how this whole entire industry, every industry ever, everything just wants you to spend money.
Gotta make that moolah.
And so that
makes the world go around.
I think that taking these big titles and then putting that like duo spin, it's like, oh, like how does this play it too? I really hope that lots of these or most of these kind of take the spin that Mad Kala did, right? Where they literally fundamentally changed the game. They didn't just take Wonderland's War and just gave you a smaller board, you know, or something that makes it okay to play with two. I love how, and I kind of keep coming back to this, but I love how Druid City Games did that, is they took Wonderland's War, same theming, same kind of fun idea, and they just put a different spin on it, right? And they didn't even call it Wonderland's War Duo. They called it Mad Kala, but clearly everybody who's aware of the game knows that it's basically essentially a two-player version of Wonderland's War. I love that. I love the way that they did that.
It's a way to like give you the flavor of like the universe and the game, but make it like a new experience and limit it down to just the two players.
I mean, sometimes it is hard to get groups around the table or to kind of be able to table games with big groups. And I know like me, like you have a dedicated group that comes over every Tuesday night to play. It's harder for me to do that. Typically when I play, it's either with you or with Jordan. So I primarily play games at two players. So I love all the two-player games and two-player variants and stuff that's coming out, because that's where my play style currently is at. And so it is nice and refreshing to be able to take a game, like if they continue to do this, which I anticipate they are, it would be fun to take games that don't typically play good with two players and make some sort of two-player game for that. Like I would, again, within limits, but like I like that idea. I like the idea of that. What I don't like is when it just feels like a straight up cash grab. And
Yes.
where it's a game, like for example, I don't know anything about it, but the Azul Duo one that's coming out, I love Azul at 2 because it's basically very hate drafty. There's good tension. Why would I ever want a 2-player version of Azul when I can just play that with my base game? I don't know.
My question would be, is it like a lower price point? Is it more accessible? Or
What if it's the same?
But if it's the same, then...
Because I'm guessing it's going to be the same. It looks similar.
If it's the same and it's like a similar vibe, like very similar like mechanics, just like watered down or altered a little bit to fit a 2-player versus more player mode, then you would always want to get the game that does like the 2 to 4.
Exactly.
Because it plays fine at 2, but then you have the option available
to
for,
play with 4. So then what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a good thing you mentioned, is when I do go and get a game that says, you know, plays from 2 to 6. And let's just say, hypothetically, it does play good at 2 and all the way up to 6.
Yeah.
Well, that single game gives me that variety.
Yes.
That's the problem with 2-player games, is that when I do happen to have a group over, I can't say, oh yeah, me and Jordan just played Beast 2 players for Halloween. We just played Beast at 2 players, and now let's play it at 4 players. It's no, that now is completely off the table.
The thing I was thinking about earlier, so like I think it's one thing to take like a game, like a larger player count game, and then turn it into a 2-player game versus a 2-player game that like is popular, but then turn it into something that allows more people. Like that actually makes me usually feel excited, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like for the game that I'm thinking of specifically is Lost Cities, the card game.
Yes.
I really like that as a 2-player game, but I really like having that board game that goes up to 4.
The board game.
Yeah. That goes up to 4 players as well. So I'm like, that would be I guess it's a slightly different topic, but a question, like, what do you think about? Because we don't see that as often, I don't think.
Some of the reasons why we don't see the flip around is because I feel like 2-player games, solo games, that's kind of a newer...
Yeah.
That's newer age games. More and more games are coming out that are 2-player only or solo only. Back then, that wasn't a big thing. So I think people are taking some of these older titles, older games, and then making them 2 players. And I don't know, maybe in the future there will be 2-player games that are really popular at 2 players or 2-player games, and then make it into a bigger game. Because didn't that happen with Lost Cities? Wasn't it originally the card game?
It was a card game first.
Yeah. So like it has happened.
And as you like say that, I can think back to like when I was first like diving into like board games, and I primarily was only playing. I mean, I had a board game group that I attended every week, but Jordan and I were playing board games together much more frequently. Yeah, I was constantly trying to find like good 2-player games, and I don't feel like there were that many options out there that I could find. There were like a few that would be recommended, but it was always like the same ones over and over again. And now
there's definitely a lot more.
I feel like there's like boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so many, almost to the point though where it like almost feels like over. Kill. Like what it reminds me of, sorry, is taking like the animated movies and then turning them into like the live action.
You are so right.
That's what it kind of feels like to me.
It's losing stuff from the original.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
And just, like taking this original game and then like putting it because we can, or because it's like the trend, like let's put it into this 2-player version. Whereas I think it would be to come up with like that 2-player game that is completely unique and completely original. And so like if you're doing that, but it's like the same universe, like with the is it
the Mad Kala
one, like then I think that's cool and that's like innovative. And granted, we haven't played these 2-player games that we're talking about.
This is all just hypothetical.
So this is hypothetical.
If a box reads 2 to 4 players, then you best believe and you better hope that game actually plays good at 2 to 4 players, right?
Yes.
So if you have a game that plays good from 2 to 4 players, why do I need a 2-player variant? So the way that you would sell me personally is by taking that same idea, taking the theme, taking what that kind of the idea of that game is, and putting a whole new spin on it for a 2-player variant. that's what I'm looking for in these 2-player games, is something like that. Especially like if you're very like conscientious, what's the word I'm looking for? Conscientious? Is that the word?
I think so.
About like shelf space or money. It's like, if I'm low on shelf space, I'm not going to go get that 2-player variant when I can play Aquatica with 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, so there needs to be something more than just that title or that brand slapped on the cover to incite me to want to actually purchase that game.
If the price point is lower and it is like more accessible, like then for that reason I think, oh, then yeah, if it's making it like easier to access, especially with a game like Everdell, for instance. Everdell's price point is like $70, something like that.
It's way higher than I feel like it should be. It is. It's very expensive.
So it's a high price point and it's a great game and it does play really well at 2 players. Do you know now, is it out yet? Is the 2-player version yet?
No. The Kickstarter just happened a little bit ago.
Okay,
right?
so it's the Everdell, and that's a 1 to 2-player, competitive and co-op. Okay, that actually sounds pretty cool. So I knew that there was a 2-player version of Everdell coming out. I hadn't looked at the Kickstarter page for it, probably because I was just like, oh, it's another, just gonna brush it off, another 2-player version of a game that's being released. But to me, this actually sounds, so like if you're doing something like this where it says, you can play 1 to 2-player, competitive, and co-op. And for me, that's like, oh, okay. Like, I really love games that do that.
Yeah, you love games that do that.
That you can play either competitively or co-op. And it has a 15-chapter campaign, which I also get excited about. So I'm like, okay, maybe I would get this. It looks like the price point will be a lot more affordable based off of what it says on the Kickstarter. So I think like if that is like a aspect of 2-player games, then I think that's like very
more affordable.
Yeah.
An affordable version, a smaller version, takes up less, space.
I know people love Splendor Duel. It's like a lot of people like it.
Have you played it yet?
I have not played it.
I haven't played it either, but I've heard it like replaces Splendor for a lot of people.
So like we really like Splendor, and it plays 2 to 4 people, and I also think that it plays fine at 2 people. But it's like the price point for Splendor Duel is very similar to Splendor. So, like, for me, that's something like, I don't know. I guess I think if you're going to come out with a 2-player game, I would like it to see it to be more
cheaper.
Accessible and cheaper.
I do want to play a lot of these higher player count games and just never really get the opportunity to play them. One I always come back to is Vagrant Song. We have it and we've broken out a couple times, but not nearly as often. And Jordan hated the game, but I think he just didn't quite understand it. So I've been trying to get it.
This game
yeah, I was like, you need to play it again. But I would love to have a solo version. If you could just take the world and it, like I said, it can be a completely different game, but just give me a solo version still set in that world. I would be all about that.
Yeah, so that makes me think of the Everdell duo. It was 1 or 2 players.
Yes.
So
I
feel like if you're taking a game and
my
making
goodness,
it
doing more
2-player, you
solo
should
versions.
have it be 1 or 2-player. You can do it either way.
Well, lots of times solo versions of games already feel kind of tacked on, right?
Yes,
if I play a game and it's it also has a solo variant, or you can play this solo. It's not like you should play it solo or it was meant to play solo. It's you can play it solo. Yeah. So that's almost what I wish would happen more is less 2-player variants and more solo variants.
Yes.
That's what I want. I want... Yeah, give me Wonderland's War solo. Give me something and actually tailor the game so it is this is meant to be a solo mode. Because I think solo gaming is becoming more and more, I feel like it's always growing, but it's grown a lot the last little bit. And even myself, I find myself pulling out games solo all the time.
I wonder if the pandemic, when
I'm
everyone was isolated and not everyone could have, there was so much online board gaming going on, but still when you're at home,
Well, I think more and more people are finding this hobby. I think the hobby is growing, and I think sometimes I was the first one in my family to find board gaming, and it took me a while to, and even still, I feel like I don't have tons of friends that are in this hobby. So I turned to myself for a while.
Yeah.
You know, there was lots of nights where I would just play by myself because that was the only person that was available for me to play at the time.
Can we have one tree?
Sure. So yeah, that's definitely something that like I want. I wish there was more of that, like solo modes of these like big games or solo game that's set within the universe of a bigger game or title that I really like.
Yeah. Hear us do that.
Hear us do it. Publishers out there.
I feel the same way. So I often don't even try or attempt, because
to play.
It just seems like whatever. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
I don't know. But maybe I'm missing out on something. I don't know. Maybe I have to be more willing to give them a try. So my question would be to people viewing: have you tried any games that say 1 to 4 or 1 to however many? And is there ones that are currently 1 to a higher player count that you feel like have a really good like one
Actually
player
play
mode
good at
and
one.
play one at one? Because I would love to know.
Yeah.
Is there a 2-player game that you would like that's currently out and is 2-player only that you would like to see be made into something that plays a higher count, like Sky Team, for instance? And is there a higher player count game that says like it plays 2, but you don't really feel like it plays well at 2 that you would like to see made into a 2-player game?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, let us know. We love going through all the comments on these. So
And it could be a potential follow-up.
a little yep, exactly. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this Buzz Chat today. This is definitely, like I said, I think just continue to expect to see more of these games.
I think so.
And I don't know, I just can't help but think they're gonna go through like really big titles, and like all of the big, really popular games are gonna get some sort of duo or some sort of mode like that. I think that's probably inevitable. I'm trying to think. Wingspan doesn't have like a dedicated, does it?
It has one of the expansions.
Well, the Asia one.
Yeah, is like a 2-player. You can play that by itself with just 2 players. So I haven't done that
But
yet.
it also, it's not like branded as like a 2-player.
Right. It's branded as an expansion.
It's like an expansion.
that can be played by itself with 2 players.
See, now with Everdoll having this, I'm like, I don't know, Jamie, he might be already on it, but I would not be surprised if they have like a Wingspan duo.
Like,
what games do you think are next?
Yeah. What
On the
games do you
chopping
think is
block.
next? Do you think this is like an important like development in the board game community? Is it overdone or
Yep.
whatnot? What are your opinions?
Let us know. Thanks so much for watching this video today. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.